Imagine winning the most prestigious title in bodybuilding 8 times in a row. Imagine being called the greatest human body ever built. And then imagine not being able to walk to your own mailbox. To understand any of this, you need to first know Ronnie Coleman's history to comprehend this situation, because without laying the facts, the foundation collapses before it starts. May 13th, 1964, Bastrop, Louisiana, a small, humid town that the rest of America forgot existed. This is where God, or the universe, or whatever force governs the destiny of extraordinary men, decided to drop Ronnie Dean Coleman. His family had nothing extravagant, no trust fund, no connections. What they had was work ethic so thick you could cut it with a knife, and a mother, Jessie Coleman, who looked her son in the eye every single morning and said, "Boy, you will be something." Ronnie took those words and tattooed them somewhere behind his sternum, somewhere no scalpel would ever reach.
I've always had it. I was pretty much born with it, and I wake up every morning with it.
Coleman began lifting weights at age 13, continuing through high school, and his days as middle linebacker for Eddie Robinson's Grambling teams. He works out 2 to 2.5 hours a day, 6 days a week, perfecting his body.
He was an athlete first, a football player, fast, powerful, relentless. He earned a full scholarship to Grambling State University, one of the most storied HBCUs in America, and studied accounting of all things. Because Ronnie Coleman never did anything halfway. Not school, not sport, not life. But football faded. The NFL door didn't open. And for a lesser man, that would have been the end of the story. For Ronnie Coleman, it was just the prologue. After graduating, Ronnie packed his accounting degree and his enormous frame and moved to Arlington, Texas. He got a job at Domino's Pizza, delivering pies across suburban Texas in a beat-up car, probably smelling like mozzarella and destiny. He needed money. He walked into a gym called Metroflex, a gritty, no-frills iron dungeon that smelled like sweat and ambition, and asked about a membership. The owner, Brian Dobson, took one look at Ronnie's frame and handed him a free membership. "I'll train you," Brian said, "for free. All I ask is you compete." Ronnie looked at him like he'd suggested jumping off a bridge. He said yes anyway.
That hard. He takes everything very, very seriously, from the diet to the aerobics to the rest to the, we even get him out in the sun, tanning, haircut, everything down to a T. It's all very...
Now here's where history gets quietly miraculous. Ronnie Coleman was simultaneously becoming a bodybuilder and a police officer for the Arlington Police Department. Every morning before the sun came up, he was squatting iron. Every afternoon, he was putting on a badge and serving his community. 2 lives, one extraordinary human. His colleagues at the precinct thought it was eccentric, maybe even insane. Imagine pulling over a speeding driver, and the officer who walks to your window looks like he could flip your car with one hand. But Ronnie didn't care what people thought. He never did. His first competition? He won. Then the next. Then the next after that. By the early 1990s, Ronnie Coleman was a name whispered in gyms. Not shouted yet, whispered. The industry had its kings. Dorian Yates dominated the Mr. Olympia stage like a dark British storm. The throne wasn't available. So Ronnie waited. And he worked. The legends say, and listen, some of this you have to understand is told with the reverence people reserve for mythology, that Ronnie Coleman once squatted 800 pounds. 800 pounds in a gym on a Tuesday.
Do you have any regrets, training-wise or bodybuilding-wise?
Oh, no. When you're doing something that's your hobby, something that you really and truly enjoy doing, you don't have no regrets. The only regret I had is when I was doing that 800-pound squat. I didn't do 6 reps because I knew I had 6 in me, but I didn't know that until I put it up because that was my first time ever trying it.
Yeah.
If I'd have done it, before that day, I'd have got 6 easy reps on camera, and I would have been fully satisfied. But because I didn't do it, that's the only regret I ever have in the sport. That's the only regret, because I knew, and as soon as I put it up, I said to myself, man, that was light. It was light for real, you know?
Yeah.
And I could have got at least 3 more reps. But because I had 2 in my mind, because I, deadlifted it before.
Right. That's what you were going to do. You thought you were going to do it.
That's what I thought I was going to do. I was like, if I could get 2, I'll be happy.
Yeah.
And not thinking, this is going to be light,
Do you have any other PRs that were off camera? Because this is something.
The only one I got is the front squat. I tried 6 plates on camera.
Like it was homework, he'd load the bar past the point of reason, look at his training partners, grin like a man who'd made peace with pain, and say those famous words, lightweight. He called 800 pounds lightweight. Either the man had lost his mind, or he'd found something deeper than his mind. Some primal, animal, magnificent refusal to be limited by what the human body was supposedly capable of. In 1998, Dorian Yates stepped away. The throne was empty. Ronnie Coleman sat down, and he didn't get up for 8 years. 8 consecutive Mr. Olympia titles. 8, tying the legendary Lee Haney, a record no one had broken. At his peak, Ronnie stood on that stage at nearly 300 pounds of muscle, shredded, grainy, impossibly proportioned, and the judges had no choice but to hand him the trophy every single time. He wasn't competing anymore, he was performing an execution. But here's what the trophies never told you. Here's what the crowd's roar drowned out. Every rep, every set, every impossible load Ronnie put on that bar, it was writing a bill, a debt to be paid. And the creditor was his own skeleton.
He takes everything very, very seriously, from the diet to the aerobics to the rest to everything down to a T. It's all very important.
The next step in professional bodybuilding, Mr. Olympia.
I had some people tell me that I can do it, so I'm just taking it one step at a time, one day at a time, until I reach that goal.
Bodybuilding experts believe Ronnie Coleman's future and perhaps fortune will be made in the gym.
And what a lot of people don't understand is, you see me big up there like that, but it took a long time for me to get there. That didn't happen overnight. I just wanted a free membership because I was poor back then. I couldn't afford to pay for a gym membership because I just hired on there. And coming from Domino's Pizza, where I had to eat pizza every day to survive because I didn't make that much money. By the time I got to the police department, I was still struggling and trying to get back on my feet, and I couldn't afford a membership still.
Imagine waking up one morning and your back doesn't feel right. You've felt discomfort before. Every serious athlete has. But this is different. This is the sound of something structural complaining. You ignore it, the way champions ignore things. You chalk your hands, you get under the bar, you squat, because that's what Ronnie Coleman does. What doctors would later discover, after he finally reluctantly walked into a hospital, was that Ronnie had been training for years with herniated discs. Not one, multiple. His spine was screaming, and he had trained himself so thoroughly to push through pain that he couldn't hear the screaming anymore. There's something heartbreaking and heroic and completely reckless about that. All at once, a close friend, speaking in hushed tones, once said, "Ronnie felt pain the way you and I feel weather. It was just there. It didn't stop him." 2006. The Olympia stage. Jay Cutler stands on the top platform. The trophy is in someone else's hands for the first time in 8 years. Ronnie didn't cry on stage. He's not built for public tears, but those who know him say something in his eyes that night looked like a man watching a version of himself die. He tried to come back. 2007, 2008, battered, patched together, running on pride and muscle memory. But the body that had conquered the world was now turning on its owner. He retired. And then,
so if this is the price you have to pay, I think if you ask Ronnie, he'd say he'd do it again. Yeah, buddy! If you ask Ronnie, he'd say he'd do it again. If you ask me, I would say it's foolish. I would never do that. I don't want any of those standout trophies to have the body that Ronnie Coleman has. It wouldn't be worth it for my lifestyle.
Everybody said, oh, what a shame. That's how we'll remember him. No. You'd remember the 8-time champ. Nobody remembers the 4th time. They remember the king when he was on top. That's how they remember Ronnie.
He just did what he had to do to be the greatest bodybuilder of all time.
But all I can say is it's getting better every single year.
and then,
Buddy.
the surgery started. First, his back, then again, then his hips, then his neck. Over the course of the following decade, Ronnie Coleman would undergo more than 13 major surgeries, 13 times lying on a table, counting backwards from 10, trusting strangers with scalpels to fix what years of superhuman effort had broken. One surgery, we're told, went catastrophically wrong. Screws placed in his spine migrated. Nerves were affected. There was a period, and this is the part that silences a room, where it wasn't clear Ronnie would walk again. The man who squatted 800 pounds couldn't stand up on his own. Think about that. And here's where Ronnie Coleman's story stops being a tragedy and becomes something else entirely. Something rarer. Because in every interview, every single one, when someone leans forward with that sympathetic tilt of the head and says, "Ronnie, do you regret it?" he laughs, not bitterly, not performatively. He laughs the laugh of a man who genuinely, completely, at peace in his soul, does not regret a single rep. "I'd do it all over again," he said. Every bit of it. There's a philosophical argument to be made, and critics make it, that this is a man who cannot allow himself to feel regret, because regret would mean the pain was pointless, and that would be unbearable. But watch his eyes when he says it. There's no defense mechanism there. There's just a man who defined himself by his limits, found out his limits were further than anyone else in history, and considers that a life well lived. He still trains, modified, adapted, seated sometimes, but he trains. Because Ronnie Coleman cannot conceive of a version of himself that doesn't. What Ronnie Coleman leaves behind is difficult to quantify. 8 Olympia titles, yes. A physique that has never been replicated, yes. A catchphrase that's been yelled in every gym on every continent on this planet, absolutely yes. But the real legacy is this. Somewhere right now, there's a kid who grew up with nothing, who was told they were too small, too slow, too broke, too late, and that kid watched Ronnie Coleman, a Domino's delivery driver from Bastrop, Louisiana, become the greatest of all time, and that kid decided not to quit. You can't put that on a trophy shelf. You can't weigh it. But it's real. And it matters. Ronnie Coleman is not a cautionary tale. He is a cathedral, built by a man who poured everything he had into something he loved, until the walls cracked and the roof came down, and still, in the rubble, he stands there. If this story moved you, hit that like button. Subscribe if you want more stories about legends who refuse to be ordinary, and drop in the comments, what does Ronnie Coleman's story mean to you? Yeah, buddy.